Now that you know what you're doing, you have a good handle on how to weld, and you're making good welds. So we're going to zoom up on the electrode now. We'll make some quick welds to show you the idea, and then we'll go into the proper method of how to close a jump ring. I have now in my hand, this isn't actually a very large jump ring, but you'll notice that welding something like this reacts very differently than welding a piece of a flat steel or a screw. So if you have one, go ahead and grab one, and let's just go ahead and make a weld real quick. It reacts very differently, and what's going to happen here is it's going to melt all the way through, and if this is smaller, which you'll see here in a second, it would join it all the way together. But I want you to practice as well. Grab a spare jump ring, and you can weld in the same jump ring over and over again. But go ahead and practice just welding on here, getting used to touching and welding on a curved surface. You'll notice that it's a little bit different than it is on a flat surface. So now that I've had this big one, I'm going to go ahead and grab a really small jump ring, and I'll show you how to work with that. As I do that, because I know my jump ring is small, I'm going to switch out my electrode for one that is clean and sharp. All right, so you saw those differences there. Now we're going to go back up and we're going to learn the proper way to open and close a jump ring. This is actually very important, and this will make welding permanent jewelry on your clients much, much easier. So pay attention here, and we'll show you exactly the best way to open and close a jump ring. So here we go. Here's my jump ring. There's the joint right up there in the top. I don't want to open this way. I don't want to peel it open. I don't want to force it open. What you want to do is go side to side. So I'm going to grab two of these little pairs of pliers, pinch one on your side, and I'm just going to twist it open like that. There, can you see that? So again, I didn't pull it open that way, right? I twisted it open to the side. That's going to help you have better tension as you're closing it back up. So now at this point that it's open, now I could slide this onto a chain, I could slide it onto something else. Then as I close it, it's very simple to grab again and twist it back closed. A good way to do this, depending on what material and how size, you can even twist it back too far and then put a little pressure on it. The idea being here, there, can you see that? You do not want any gap whatsoever in that joint before you make a weld. If there's a gap there at all, then your weld is either not going to work, or it's going to open it up more when you try to weld it, or it's going to be an ugly, not very strong weld. So again, this is very important. Again, this is a small jump ring, but you want to make sure it's closed. And before you weld it, there's no gap, and you have some good tension on that jump ring as well. Now I went and got a slightly bigger jump ring. This is a rose gold jump ring, and I upped my settings on my welder to 5.5 joules. Now let's do the same thing again. This will be a lot easier for you to see, and the results will be a little bit easier for me to do as well on camera. So again, when I open this, I'm not going to pry it open. I'm going to grab it with two little pairs of pliers, and I'm going to twist it open. See? Easy peasy. Now I would take this and I would slide out onto a chain or something, which I have one right here. So let's go ahead and do that for you. Okay. So I can slide that onto my chain. Now to close it, same idea. We're going to grab it and we're going to twist it back closed. See, now I went a little too far. That's okay. There. Now again, I don't want any gap whatsoever in that. So there's no gap in that joint. It's been closed properly. I think I'm ready to weld it. Now I have my pliers right here. These are my grounded pliers. So these are ready to be welded right now as is. So I can take it and I can go ahead and just touch it and make the weld. Make sure I'm in the right spot. And I'm going to do a second weld right here. There we go. And that's okay. we can do 2 welds just to make sure if it's closed all the way. But if you look up really close now, you'll see that weld is welded all the way through. Now, it's up to you. You can use higher energy and weld all the way through that jump ring in 1 weld and be done. Or you can use lower energy and you can do 2 welds or even 3 welds in different spots to make sure it's welded. What process you use is up to you and up to how you prefer to do it. There's no one correct way. What there is correct, though, is making sure that you open these jump rings properly and that you close them properly. Again, no gap whatsoever in that joint. And if you can have some tension on them, helping them push together, that'll be even better. All right. Now let's do the same thing, but with a chain. I went and cleaned my electrode. Now let's do the whole process again. Okay, I got my chain here. I'm going to go ahead and cut a link off of it. Okay, here's my link. I'm going to cut this link. Okay, with my small precision cutters, I mean. Okay, I'm going to grab it. And I'm not editing this footage, so I want you to see everything I'm doing here. Because you're going to run into occasions when you have these exact same struggles. And I want you to know that's okay. Trying to figure it out is okay. Okay, so I opened that jump ring. See? Now I'm going to turn my energy back down because I had that too high. Let's go back down to 2.5. Okay, now let's go through that process again. I'm going to close this jump ring in that same method. Okay, I'm going to hold it a little bit differently. I'm doing this so you guys can see what I'm doing better. There we go. That was much better. See that first weld? Got that to close shut. And I even could have gone down. I might have been a smidge too high even because that's kind of melted in a weird way right there. So that's okay. So again, I want you to realize and to know you need to practice and figure this out. And it's okay if you make mistakes when you're first starting. This is why we practice now before we're welding onto an actual client. So we just did that on this chain. We did it on a larger jump ring as well. As you're getting started, it's always easier, as you saw, to weld a larger jump ring than it is to weld one of these tiny links on this chain, right? It's always easier to start something a smidgen bigger. So maybe when you're first starting, just use larger jump rings if you can with your chain. Select a chain that works like that. And as you develop and refine your skills, go down to smaller and smaller chains and smaller links. I myself can weld smaller chains than this without any difficulty. But for the video, I want you to see what's going on. So I use something a little bit larger. But this is okay. So keep practicing. Remember, the proper way to open a jump ring is not to pry it open, but to twist side to side open, right? And as you're closing it, twist it shut. Make sure there's no gap whatsoever. If there is a gap in that joint, the weld will not be near as clean. So now, once you go ahead and sit down and do some practicing on your own, make sure you have a clean, sharp electrode and grab a jump ring and grab a chain and start welding. And it's okay. You can weld time and time and time again on the exact same jump ring. That's okay. You don't need to waste all of your jump rings right now. Just weld it once, cut it, weld it again, cut it, weld it again. Get used to the process of it because this is what you are going to be doing as you're welding permanent jewelry. I'm welding right now underneath the ADL screen. Here later, I'm going to be welding by hand, freehanding it. So do that as well. Practice welding, holding it in your hand. Practice welding it, having it set like this. All right, now it's your turn once again. Go ahead and pause this video and go weld some jump rings. Remember, practice the technique. Open side to side. Close. Keep pressure on it as it's closed. No gap in that joint, and your weld will be perfect. One thing to pay attention to is what is the perfect weld to you? Do you want this jump ring to be all the way closed shut in a single weld? Or do you prefer doing 2 or 3 smaller welds all the way around? Now is your time to figure it out. So go ahead, pause, go do some jump rings, and I'll see you in the next video.